So that's the engine. I wanted to make this before it got too dark, but I guess I was driving around a bit too long. So it's a silver 8V92. The silver basically means it has a turbo as well as a blower there, which you can see down below. The early ones just had the blower and not a turbo, but for the last few they made of these, they had added the turbo, and they're called the silvers. It's a little bit different than you would think. There's a typical engine. The air compressor's down there at the back of the engine, as well as the alternator. It's also got a shutter rad on it. It's just locked open at the moment. Usually they'd run on a little air cylinder, but if they ever fail, it's just safer to leave it blocked open. It makes the front pretty simple. It's just the only thing that drives off the front belts here is the engine fan. So that's kind of nice. One thing it does have added that would not be typical is this, which is a primer. These things typically didn't have a way to prime, and they were a real bear to get started if you ran them out of fuel. But he has this, which it looks like it came off of a cat, and he added that, so that's a nice addition to have on one of these motors. On this side, it's a little bit easier to work on if you're ever going to do pull the valve covers. It's kind of hard to do on the other side with the exhaust in the way, but this one's a little bit more opened up. You can see it's quite oily. These engines do leak a whole lot of oil. And the reason they're so loud and noisy is it's a two-stroke and it's a V8, so instead of 6 cylinders firing every 4 strokes, you have 8 cylinders firing every 2 strokes, which means every time a piston's at the top, it's firing. So they fire way more than your inline 6s that you'd be used to, the 4 strokes. I just shut it off here, but you can see there's a little bit of oil dripping down there. That's pretty standard. The power steering reservoir's up here, tucked out of the way too. They're very small engine, very light. You can see if it wasn't for the turbo being on top of the motor, there'd be room for 2 engines under the hood here. This particular engine, I believe, is a 475 horsepower, which does sound like a lot for a 40-year-old truck, but it's only doing about 1,300 foot-pounds of torque, so you really got to keep them wound out to get the power out of them. But for quick, snappy shifting, they're a pretty good engine for rolling in the hills and stuff like that. You can shift them really quick if you have to, and save a lot of ground speed. Alright, thanks for watching.